Here's what I was talking about. Flange nut. This central piece here is the same as this end piece. It's all just one solid lump, and your piece there is movable, and that's just flat rubber. I have actually seen one of these that was built for a corrugated iron tank where the rubber was the same shape as, well, corrugated iron sheets. Yeah, that was one that's actually been used here, and we replaced the corrugated iron bits with flat rubber, actually out of an old tractor tyre tube, I think it was. Something like that. Anyways, what you're looking for is something that is around about the right size, but it can be a little bit bigger, and it doesn't really matter because these rubber flaps will close over it. I've showed how to put one of these in. It's a bit of a shitstorm with an IBC, but when you can take the lid off a nice little container, it's actually going to be very easy because I have the ability to take the entire lid off. And of course, this side is the one that stays on the outside, and if I'm not incorrect, which I am, that's what I'm looking for, is a nut and tail. So this one's a little bit bigger. It's a 3/4 inch fitting, but it's a 1 inch lemon thread there for a 3/4 inch pipe, or 19mm like the black one there. And yeah, so that's too bloody big, and I think they all are. I think the whole lot are inch. There's actually 3 of them like this. And one of them that's just an inch to an actual inch barb fitting there. But this one I believe is, yeah, 19mm, there you go. A bit of wiggling and jiggling. That'll fit in, or it actually did just fit in then. Yeah, so anyway, that may be the next move. Failing that, I can get one that fits a 3/4 inch and goes to 1/2 inch, but I'd rather have a 3/4 inch outflow because there's that bit extra size for when it overflows. In that, I'm probably not going to be. I'm going to be able to. Well, I actually really won't be able to fill at full speed. So I'll have to sort of, instead of turning the tap fully open, I mean, technically I could initially, but if you know you're getting close, you got to turn it down too low. Otherwise, it'll literally splurge water at the top of the lid, as opposed to just overflow nicely. Now, of course, if you put your overflow down lower, it also won't splurge all over the damn place. But in that, then you won't be able to fill it as much either. So you're sort of caught between, you know, do you want to fill it up completely versus, you know, do you want it to have a chance to get out the overflow before it overflows over the top of the lid? And none of that is a problem if you turn it down low enough. But then when you turn it down low, it'll take you a bloody long time to fill the tub. So anyway, you got to work everything out between that. That there is the other ones I was saying about. Yeah, I don't really think I've got what I am looking for, but I'll have to keep looking. I used to wonder where all the peppercorn had got to. Here it is, all hiding under here. This is all the stuff, all the old posts we got out of the fence down below. So I'm going and throwing a few on, and then all the peppercorn, and then a whole bunch more on top of it. I always used to think, I swear I had more peppercorn than I burnt. And a flaming did. It's just all hiding under other stuff. There's more of it sticking out the end there too. Just been trying to top that trailer up there. Trying to make the most of it all. Probably not going to give it to the guy at work's mate because I haven't seen the guy at work, let alone giving him a chance to organise anything with his mate. Here's a couple other bits of peppercorn that I should chuck in the fire. I sort of get to identify all the woods by the smell. Like, each wood, when you burn it, has a different smell on the smoke. And, you know, even when you're standing on the front lawn, you can smell that little whiff. Something else strange with peppercorn too, the ash is as white, and you open the thing to get this great big bunch of white ash, and I mean like pure white ash, like flipping. It's like looking at a sheet of office paper, it's that white. Anyway, yeah, that's, I chucked a few extra bits on top there. I'll give him some of the big bangers too. There's a big one down the bottom there. That's fairly big. I just had these overhanging, I just had to trim them off with a reciprocating saw. But yeah, that's, you got a fair few of the ones that I got from down there. I did end up bringing all that stack up after it stopped raining and all that. There's still a handful of those amongst here, but yeah, there's a lot of it. This is this other funny gangle that I thought was actually holding up one of the branches, and indeed it wasn't. And I cut that out of the equation with a reciprocating saw as well. But it is a very strange looking arrangement, isn't it? Forks out there to come in. There's another, I think there's a cut. Oh no, there's no cut there. Sap all through the damn thing in there. Another one, another one, another one, another one. One there, one there, one there. Small one there. What a blooming circus. I don't even think it goes to anything. That's just one little one down there, but yeah, it's almost like it was a gall and the thing just went bloody berserk and threw stuff every which way. And that was just literally hanging off one of the like side branches of a tree after the tree collapsed into the ground. So I don't know if it was it trying to regenerate roots out of one of its branches, which I have seen boxthorn trying to do on one occasion. You know, almost like as though it collapsed, which this one that had come off did, and then as these branches stab into the ground, it then tries and turns those branches into a root to make up for the fact that the roots at the base are now uprooted or snapped. Yeah, it sort of reminds me when you get an insect gall and they go all fucking stupid. Well, mistletoe also does stupid things like that to it. We do have, I've got no mistletoe here, but up in that big forest that's up the road from me, they got quite a bit of mistletoe. And in fact, my uncle even grabbed a few bits and I have burnt mistletoe in the wood heater here. Never seems to get very big, the mistletoe, but the dead giveaways, it always goes and infects like gum trees like this. I mean, that's infected with enough bloody bugs to sink a battleship, but what you'll notice is you'll have the leaves of the gum tree and then you'll have these other leaves which look like they're from a different variety of tree, and that's the mistletoe leaves, and then you look up and you'll see like the branch and there'll be like this ball, and that's where the mistletoe has attached itself to the tree. But I don't think it's anything like European mistletoe, and one thing I will say, what I've seen of mistletoe in Christmas cartoons and stuff like that, mistletoe we have is fairly substantial sized. It never stands up as such. It'll never have leaves standing up. The leaves will always be hanging down like a weeping willow. And when they are hanging down, they can be hanging down, 5 foot easily, sometimes even more. It's no big deal to see one that's, dangling down 5 or 6 foot. But yeah, I don't have it on this one, but I mean, this, God blimey, this thing has much more bugs and shit attack it. It'll probably just be a carcass anyway. I think it's got a reasonable life still left in it, but yeah, I'd love to be able to get rid of all the dead stuff that's up here and all this. That's collapsed. It's snapped off there. It was the one I was trying to pull out, and the rest of it all up there, most of it's rotten, and then you got a whole bunch of rotten stuff this side. But yeah, anyway, Our old girl's still surviving, so we'll leave it there. What happens is, and you can sort of, I don't know if you can see in there, there's one there, and there's another one that's a bit in the shadow, but it's there. There's another one even up there. And what happens is, you can almost tell by looking at this one there. What happens is the wind from the west blows so hard eastbound that it'll snap branches off there and then throw them back in the tree on that side. So that's just something that's happened for a long time, and some of them, as you know, I've actually got some of them out of the tree, but there's one big loose one still there too. But, and just a bunch of ones that are dead, but anyway, that's fun and games for another day. I don't really know how we're going to get all that, but I mean, it doesn't really matter even if we don't, but I have been tempted just to straight out get a chainsaw onto this one that goes up there, that one there, because it's basically from this point there, it's dying anyway, so why not just hit the chainsaw right there? But if I do, she'll come down with a pretty colossal slam, plus this loose one will come out. It might come at me. And I may do that, you know, and if I do that, that'll take out the branch of the bloomin' thingo here. We'll see how it goes anyway. There is a little bit of green there, but it's just little bloomin' 3-inch wide things with the, you know, the thickest part that's live is 3 inches and with a bunch of leaves, but I probably won't even do anything to it. I mean, just the safety aspect of it is, I mentioned it to my father, and he said, "You're bloody suicidal playing with that thing. Just leave it alone. You got plenty of other wood." And he's kind of right. Alrighty. With luck you'll be able to. Oh yes, you can see it. Bop bop bop. Now that's the imprint. There's a battery there sitting on a few bits of wood. As you can tell, that's the edge. It doesn't go all the way to the edges of the sand and cement mix. Damn, I still got the empty bag sitting outside. I was supposed to grab hold of it last night and throw it in the wood heater, but I didn't. Anyway, that's almost like bedding in the base of a bath, except we've bedded in the base of that document tub. So, yeah. I've pulled that out. I'll probably just wipe some of the little crumbled bits off it. They're pretty easy to get out, but you still got little bits of muck that you sort of got on there that want to hang on. It's especially polyethylene. I've had a bit of concrete in the bottom of a garbage bin, and I pulled it out and it was perfectly cast to unbelievably perfect dimensions. You know, it was just, it almost looked like it was a piece of cast plastic, but it was just, you know, the reverse print of the shape of the bottom of the bin. And, you know, as you can see there, that's only sitting it in and pushing it down. That's, you know, concrete first and plastic on top, as opposed to plastic and then concrete inside the plastic. So that's just the way polyethylene is, you know. And it doesn't take much to get it out, just a little bit of a wiggle and it just pops straight out, as that did. And, you know, the only thing hanging on is just a couple of little tiny shards on the edge there, which, as I said, I'll break off. But I've got to go and put on this miraculous device, drill through with a hole saw for that and put that in, and then put the water pump in there, probably on the back hole, that hole there that I've got in the lid, and then I'll go around and whack a few screws in, and then I'll put it back up there, and I can plumb in the 90-degree bend and the nut and tail back to 19mm at a later point. But I can get it up there. I can then, it's a hell of a job to do it, to dance amongst a lot of crap and get the water line and the power lead from the pump into the back of the hot water system, and that honestly is probably the hardest task out of the whole lot, just to get that to fit in and not break the little clip and all that. Coleman have got a new version of hot water on demand that's got a lithium-ion battery, and I think it's a red thing and it's more cube shape, and I think it might have a digital temperature control. I have seen it anyway, but these old ones like the one I'm running here, God, they had some design flaws. And I mean, you know, they're workable, and if push come to shove, you know, I have thought at times if I could buy these second hand for $50, which I probably could if I advertised in camping stuff and whatnot, because a lot of people get them, stick the bloody pump straight in a what's his name, in a friggin' river, suck mud in through the bottom of the pump and kill the bloody thing. And that's quite a common thing. A lot of people take them back after a week after they've sucked mud through the pump and shorted the pump out. And you know, the batteries that come in them are Chinese shittos, and they really don't give them enough amperage draw as a result to run the pump even at full speed. And your pump sort of, you can hear it going up and down because the Chinese-made battery, A, is too small, B, it's Chinese-made, so it's not even hitting the rating it's supposed to hit. You can work with them, but they are excessively complicated bits of shit, and there are a lot of design flaws in them, like the fact that the damn clips for the water lines are so bloody unbelievably weak, and just a not terribly intelligent design. But anyway, so long as I can dance amongst all that crap and put the water line and power lead in, that's the hardest part of the whole lot. And then I'll of course whack in the probably that one, the water fill, and fill it up a bit, and not to the point of overflowing, but just enough to get a bit of weight in it, and maybe bleed water through the lines again for the shower, which has been sitting with no water in it for probably a little while. So yeah, so anyway, that will most likely be today's task, and I better start the day by at least having a coffee. There we go. Another bag of spinach. Most of them are down the bottom. This one's up the top. I've got a bit of that sprouting broccoli as well. As you can see, not terribly big heads. None of it does have big heads. Anyway, most of it's down the bottom. I'm not going to bother getting it all out. A lot of the older plants are getting very crinkly in the leaves. Some of them are looking rather flea bitten. A few of them are actually chucked out, but yeah, I think it might be time to get these terribly crinkly, slightly flea bitten older plants and just actually rip them out by the roots and just not harvest the leaves, but harvest the entire plant, because yeah, I think their age is moving on a little bit, and that's probably what they need, is to be fully harvested, not just leaf by leaf harvested. So anyways, that'll end up in a freezer before long. I'm still churning through bag number 2, still eating bag number 2, that sort of stuff, of the spinach and that. Pretty certain I finished the first bag, and I'm halfway through the second bag, yeah. And it's bag number 3. So yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, you know, let's face it, the broccoli wasn't as great as I had hoped, but the spinach has actually gone quite alright. Look at the grass, it's just, like, that's 2 weeks, and look at how it's come up again. I slammed the shit out of that, and you'd never even know 2 weeks later. Oh yeah, I've got something else in here too. Take it back out to the light. Should be down in there. Yep. Bump, 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 bump. Siberian kale. There's a couple of little shonky bits in that. I'll have to slice them out. But yeah, some of the leaves on it are, you know, they're not as big as the one I planted in the ground that time. But if I keep leaving them, they're just going to turn to crap. And 2 leaves there I actually chucked out. So I thought, well, I better start cutting these up so I can actually eat the bloody things as opposed to just see them sit there go yellow. And yeah, I don't know if they're generally harvested leaf by leaf like a spinach is, but a lot of things you actually can. I mean, there's a lot of different bits and pieces out there. Even, I think even oak leaf lettuce, you can do the same thing, just pick it leaf by leaf. And often enough, you know, picking of different things like New Zealand spinach and stuff like that, it sort of encourages more growth. So yeah, anyway, that was another thing I wanted to grow at one point is New Zealand spinach, and there's a place that's on the other side of the capital that they call it New Zealand spinach in New Zealand and the rest of the world, but sometimes here it's referred to as Warrigal greens because it actually grows naturally in Warrigal, which is on the other side of the capital, which I pass through every time I go to my sister's place. I need a little $10 toll, it might be $20 toll, to go and go to that place, but I wouldn't mind going there just to show it growing on the side of the road and all that. And me being me, I probably wouldn't help myself, and I'd come back with, oh, you know, garbage bags full of it, basically. Try and stuff it all in the freezer or spend a friggin' days on end trying to bloomin' process the stuff. Do one of those crazy bloomin' 23-hour straight runs trying to process the stuff. There's different times that I, you know, have been known to have big days, and I'll be awake and active the entire time for about 23 hours straight. And of course, at the end of that, you just about got to sleep for the next day straight. But yeah, that's always my sort of dream of how things would be in the ultimate scenario. You have something that is a bona fide, recognised vegetable growing naturally in the wild. You turn up there and you grab yourself a bloody 6 months supply of the stuff in 5 hours, and then go home and spend the next 3 days processing it. In other words, cutting the stems, cutting the leaf off the stems, throwing out any bad leaves, throwing out any stems, throwing out any flower heads, and bagging the rest up and freezing it. And then you've got like 6 months worth of frickin' frozen greens just sitting in your freezer. That's and you didn't have to plant a single bloody one of them or water a single one of them. Just nature took care of it. That's my ultimate way of living, you know. I could do a similar thing with venison, to be honest. I've never eaten venison, and to be honest, I don't own a centerfire rifle and said paperwork to be able to go and shoot said deer, because we've got, I don't know if you can see them, sheep, and we eat them, but you know, the way it is here, with feral deer, and especially where my sister is, where they got, you know, feral pigs as well. You know, that sort of, and even in the northern parts of the state, or particularly when you just cross over into the New South Wales border, right up in the northwestern corner, which is Mildura, and you can either cross through into New South Wales, or you can go west and you go straight into, oh shit, what's that place? I forget the name of it. Anyway, you go through into the South Australia border, and that whole area there, there's friggin' goats everywhere, all the way from Mildura up to Broken Hill, and apparently there's wild pigs there too, and certain people have decided that they didn't want to drive so far for pig hunting, so they've gone and dumped them in bloody forests, which are approximately... If I go way, way, way over in that direction, there's potato growing country, and if I sort of go a bit further that way, it takes you through to an area that is not terribly uncommon to get snow. It's quite high altitude, and it's forests everywhere, and my uncle sometimes goes driving motorbikes through there. And from his observation and several other people mentioning their observations to me, it appears that somebody has taken feral pigs from up around where my sister's area is, or, you know, basically New South Wales area, and decided they didn't want to travel all that way to hunt feral pigs, and now they've dumped them in the forest over there. They got basically a bunch of younger ones that they captured and put in a cage or whatever on the back of their light truck, and just decided to dump them in the bloody forest. And that's great, you know, fan-bloody-tastic. And if you got caught doing something like that, I tell you what, you just about get 6 months jail for it, for spreading a feral species. It's actually illegal to own a British red fox here without a licence, for the exact same reason that you are harbouring a feral animal. But anyway, if I get a decent centerfire rifle, which is probably not likely, then I could, you know, get a lot of different kinds of meat other than sheep meat. And I have eaten feral pig when I was at my sister's place, and it's actually pretty flaming good. Not quite supermarket grade, but not too bad either. Anyway, for now it's just picking spinach. Alrighty, it is happening. I've been up through the back trying to connect that. I basically got it on standing in front of it from here, and then I went around the other side, and I just needed to put the little clip on. It was slid on, and I just needed to push the little clip down, slide it another mil or two, and then bingo. And then I plugged the power line in, which you can see is a black cable there. You can sort of see. Anyway, we are filling. I have my power switches there. Run off the battery. As I mentioned, a lot of these are built like shit, and the battery is never good enough. So I've got a nice big healthy battery here, which how big is it? Yes, 20 amp hour. The one they give you is either 3.5 or 4 amp hour. Depends on, the older ones end up being 4 amp hour. The earlier ones of these green Coleman hot water on demands end up being 3.5 amp hour, and that's 20 amp hour. And originally I had is it a 22 and a 12? One of which I think is still sitting under the kitchen table. Anyway, here we are. I've got the screws are whacked in the whole shitstorm there, and tighten that up with the spanner and everything, so that's in very tight. I didn't want to go much tighter because I was worried it would almost strip the damn thread that's on it there. 19mm 3/4 inch thread. We have to not overflow this as we're filling it. As you can see, it's filling through the green line. I don't really like the positioning of that green line over time. I hope it ends up more like that, so the green line isn't squeezing the vinyl line. But it is sort of a bit too long, the green line, but it doesn't matter. It's filling it anyway. And as you see, I've obviously sat it back in there. Yeah. Anyway, You can't just do this with any old document tubs because they might not be thick enough. You want to find one that's got a really thick wall and they're likely to hold up. And, you know, with a bit of luck and a few screws and all that business, and, you know, the fact that the base of it actually goes through the lid, and that I've got the lid screwed down, this should be successful. The other one, it started to bow out in the side over time, and the sides bowed. Because they're not really made to hold water, but, you know, this is the thing, you can sort of get away with it for, what? Shit. It was the middle of 2011 when I moved in, so 5 years the other tub lasted. 5 years! With a document storage tub. It cost me, what was it again? $65. This one cost me $18.99 and $19. And you know, you go and buy it was 189 litre for the other document tub, cost me, you know, $65 or $60 or something like that. If you buy a 200 litre water tank, you're going to be looking about $300. So basically, you get these for 1/5 the price, and in this one's case, you know, probably even less than 1/5 the cost. But the other one was 1/5 the cost of an equivalent water tank, and lasted for 5 years. Sure, it didn't last for 20 years, but you know, hey, who cares? You know, it served its purpose and it served it well. And if you only got to repair something every 5 years that was a cheap shit improvisation, well, you know, I can always seem to afford cheap shit improvisations versus, I'll give you an example, right? That last tub, the grey one, was 200 litres, it was 189 litres, but we'll say 200 litres. Basically the same size as a 44 British gallon or 55 US gallon drum. Now, my overhead water tank, the same one that's actually feeding this pipe right now, that should be enough for now, that is 600 litres. So basically it's 3 drums. And you know what that 600 litre tank cost? It cost me $1,000. It's one of these things, you know, when you get the smaller tanks, it's a terrible price. Yeah, they are a terrible price. 22,500 litre tank, the big monster one that I fill up, that's my main tank, sitting on the ground there, that costs $3,000 for 22,500 litre. Yet a 600 litre one that I've got as an overhead, that cost me $1,000. And this is the thing, small water tanks are punishingly expensive. So if you can be a tight ass and spend, you know, a few dollars on an improvisation, it's always a very good way to go. I'm talking about plastic tanks. I can't really tell you what the price of steel ones would be, but let's face it, usually the steel ones aren't a great deal cheaper than the plastic ones anyway. And the reality of the situation is, for several reasons, including corrosion and other such things, and just general wall thickness and ability to be hit by a collapsing tree branch and still survive, plastic always seems to be more preferred these days in this country. My parents saw somebody at some farming show or something. They had a tank full of water. They were slamming the fuck out of it with a forklift, bending it right in, and they'd reverse back out with a forklift and just pop straight out. And that was a big tank like the one I've got out there. They're slamming the bejesus out of this thing, and it would just pop straight back into shape. So if you have a tree branch hit the thing, it'll survive. Corrugated iron one? Maybe, probably not though. And of course, you know, you've got the whole when will it finally rust thing going on as well. Anyways, let's fire this thing up and see what we're rolling at here. And bingo. I don't know if I got the propane on. Oh, there we go. Still got a bit of bloody... Yep, I got her on. Yep. Yep. Sort of trying to be warm. Well, that's a little bit warm. It's not glorious, but that'll have to do anyway. I mean, you consider the fact that the line that's feeding all this is sitting on the ground outside with a bit of wind blowing. Yeah, that's not too bad. I could shower under that. Yeah, it's getting all right now. Seems as though the pump's running actually a bit faster than it normally runs, actually. It doesn't quite run that fast usually. Anyway, we're back to having a working shower, and the only thing we have to worry about is the little overflow pipe. And of course I'll probably use saddle clamps and bring something down here. Yeah, often enough I end up using that to either fill the cat's water bowl or water plants, or fill up the blooming watering can for watering a few pot plants and whatnot. Anyway, there we go, that's all a go again, that all works. And all we really got to do is just get a little overflow pipe sorted